Hello everyone, welcome back to Fragments of History. Today I want to tell you about a combat medic who is considered by many to be the greatest of all time, Desmond Doss. Don't forget to leave your suggestions in the comments below and subscribe for more incredible historical stories. Desmond Thomas Doss was born on February 7, 1919, in Virginia, United States. He was the son of William Thomas Doss, a World War I veteran, and Bertha Edward Doss, who belonged to the Seventh-day Adventist faith and raised Desmond based on the doctrines of nonviolence and vegetarianism. As a teenager, he began working at a local lumber company to help support his family financially during the Great Depression that began in 1929. In 1942, with World War II already underway, he left his job as a carpenter at the Newport News shipyard in Virginia and decided to enlist in military service. Being sent for combat training, arriving at the training camp at Fort Jackson, located in South Carolina, Desmond informed his superiors that he refused to kill a soldier or even hold a weapon due to his religious convictions, which characterized him as a conscientious objector. He preferred to be called a conscientious cooperator with the Army, but this request was denied, and he was officially classified as a conscientious objector. For those who may not know, a conscientious objector is a person who follows moral, ethical, or religious principles that are incompatible with military service, which is naturally a combatant institution. Because of his religious beliefs, Desmond would have been discharged from the armed forces through a procedure known as Section 8 inches, a discharge from military service, due to psychological issues that prevent an individual from serving in a combat force. Section 8 discharges also occurred for people who were not heterosexual. However, Doss desperately wanted to serve his country, and despite the disbelief and persecution from his platoon mates, requested to join the field medic team, participating in all training inherent to that function, except the part involving handling weapons. He nearly faced court-martial for disobedience of orders related to bearing arms, but still wanted to be useful and contribute to the war effort. However, Doss desperately wanted to serve his country, and despite the disbelief and persecution from his platoon mates, requested to join the field medic team, participating in all training inherent to that function, except the part involving handling weapons. A persecution he faced was relentless and cruel. His fellow soldiers ridiculed him constantly, calling him a coward and questioning his patriotism. They would throw boots at him while he prayed, spit on him, and make his life a living hell. Some even threatened physical violence, believing that his refusal to carry weapons would endanger their lives in combat. The harassment was so severe that his commanding officers recommended he be discharged multiple times. His sergeants and fellow trainees couldn't understand how someone could claim to want to serve his country while refusing to defend it with arms. They saw his stance as selfish and dangerous. Despite the daily torment, Desmond never wavered in his convictions. He endured the abuse with quiet dignity, often retreating to pray and find strength in his faith. He proved his physical courage and determination during training exercises, showing that his refusal to bear arms didn't make him weak or cowardly. Even when facing court-martial for disobedience of orders related to bearing arms, Desmond maintained his position. What eventually saved him from discharge was his unwavering commitment to serve as a medic and his demonstration that he could contribute meaningfully to the war effort without compromising his beliefs. His persistence and dedication finally earned him the respect of some of his superiors, who recognized his genuine desire to serve his country. Even if in an unconventional way, Desmond participated in 3 major battles during World War II. The first was in July 1944, the Battle of Guam in the Mariana Islands. The confrontation lasted 20 days, and despite being relatively short, Doss managed to rescue numerous wounded soldiers under crossfire in situations where other medics would normally not risk themselves. He repeated the same outstanding performance during the Battle of Leyte, which took place in the Filipino archipelago of Visayas and lasted from October 1944 until March 1945. Finally, there was the third and most devastating battle that Desmond Doss participated in, the Battle of Okinawa. The confrontation lasted from April to June 1945, but Doss participated from April 29th to May 21st to 22nd days in combat, involving more than 790,000 Allied soldiers on one side against 96,000 Japanese soldiers on the other. Desmond's greatest feat on this island occurred during an engagement in an area the Allied soldiers called the Maida Escarpment, or Hacksaw Ridge. Allied soldiers needed to scale a cliff almost 50 feet high to continue advancing, but many were wounded at the top, without the possibility of returning alone to the safe lower area where the remaining soldiers, who had not yet scaled the cliff, remained. Even unarmed, and with Japanese soldiers ready for combat at the top of the escarpment, Doss managed to save between 50 and 100 Allied soldiers. Additionally, some historians claim that Desmond also saved Japanese soldiers. During those 22 days he spent in Okinawa, he saved other people besides those soldiers at Hacksaw Ridge, being wounded 4 times at different moments on this island. The wound that removed him from combat permanently was a shot from a Japanese sniper that hit Desmond's left arm, causing a severe fracture and forcing his evacuation from the front. On May 21st, 1945, after being discharged from the hospital, he was released from combat and tried to return to his carpentry trade, but the damage to his arm was too great and prevented him from working in carpentry. In 1946, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis and remained in treatment for 5.5 years under the care of the American Army. Unfortunately, the disease brought complications, and he had to have 1 lung and 5 ribs removed. Due to the continuous treatment he received, as his health was quite debilitated, Desmond suffered an antibiotic overdose that left him completely deaf in 1976. He regained his hearing in 1988, thanks to a surgically inserted cochlear implant. Doss was married to Dorothy Pauline Scott since 1942, and they had 1 son, Desmond Doss Jr., who was born in 1946. They lived on a farm in Georgia until Dorothy died in a car accident in 1991. In 1993, Desmond remarried, this time to Frances May Duman. Desmond Doss died in March 2006, at 87 years of age, victim of respiratory failure. His wife Frances died 3 years later. For all his contributions in World War II, he received several decorations, including the Combat Medical Badge, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, the Purple Heart, the Army Good Conduct Medal, the American Campaign Medal, the Philippine Liberation Medal, the Bronze Star Medal, and finally, the highest military decoration of the United States, the Medal of Honor. Desmond was the main subject of several biographical books, including The Unlikeliest Hero, Desmond Doss, Conscientious Objector, Redemption at Hacksaw Ridge, and The Birth of Hacksaw Ridge. He also had a film made in his honor called Hacksaw Ridge, directed by Mel Gibson, which was nominated for 6 Academy Award categories in 2017, winning 2 of them for Best Film Editing and Best Sound Mixing. One discrepancy that appears in the film is that the injury that removes Desmond from combat was to his right leg, but according to all official records, the wound that removed him from the front, as mentioned here, was to his left arm. That's the incredible story of Desmond Doss, a man who saved lives without taking any, proving that heroism comes in many forms. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Fragments of History.